Alright, motherfucks, it's your boy the Hater, and I'm here to talk about main eventers, okay? WWE, I'm not sure they even know what the hell it is that they're doing when they're trying to create main events and when they're trying to create main eventers, right? For the longest time, it certainly appeared that Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins were obviously going to be the two guys that would become solidified, bona fide, and legitimate main eventers in WWE. You know, I kind of compared them to Cena and Randy Orton respectively. Roman Reigns was meant to be the next Cena, and I believe that Seth Rollins was meant to become the next Randy Orton. You know, he was going to be the foil to Roman Reigns. He was going to be the second guy. But think about what I'm saying. Randy Orton, even though he hasn't had the success of Cena, he has had comparable success, right? He's like a 12 or 13 time champion, right? His title reigns have been shorter, but he's a multiple time champion. And more important than that, Randy Orton, for the last 20 years, has been someone that has always had an important feud going on, an important WrestleMania match, important shit all around. He's someone that has had important stuff around him. So, he's been a main eventer basically for 20 years. Seth Rollins, on the other hand, hasn't. Seth Rollins can easily be dropped into the mid-card for no reason. Seth Rollins can easily be made to drop to Cesaro and Dominic Mysterio for no reason. This is just what happens with Seth Rollins, right? So I consider him to be kind of a failure. Same thing with Roman Reigns, to be honest. He never quite got over. Roman Reigns was given more than Seth Rollins was. Roman Reigns beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns beat Undertaker at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns beat Seth Rollins a million times. Dean Ambrose a million times. John Cena a million times. He beat everyone, right? He beat Triple H a million times, even at WrestleMania. He's just been beating the shit out of everybody. And he failed so badly that they had to turn him heel. A lot of people think this is like a win. It's not a win. Like, a win would be he's so over and he's selling so much merch that it's more advantageous to make him annoying and booed like Cena was than it is to turn him heel. They turned him heel because he didn't get over. And now they're hoping to get another chance with him. Problem is, motherfucks, Roman Reigns is like 35. Now, 35 is not old by any metric, right? It's not even old by wrestling metrics. But it does not excuse the fact that Roman Reigns has been in the company for like 8 years. Since his mid-20s, right? These last 8 years of his career should have been used better. Which brings me to Jeff Hardy, motherfucks. When Jeff Hardy returned to WWE 4 years ago, he said in an interview after the match, he said, I just jumped off a ladder at WrestleMania, and I'm almost 40. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not even that old. He could go for another 10 years, no problem. You know? Not Jeff Hardy, because Jeff Hardy's been like destroying his body for like 20, 25 years. But whatever, the point stands, right? He's someone that can go on for a long time. Like, 40 is not that old. But think about what Jeff Hardy had accomplished by the time he was 40. Jeff Hardy, at 39 years old, came back to WrestleMania, got the biggest pop of the night, and axiomatically, he and Matt won the tag titles. Like, there was no doubt that they were going to win the tag titles. There was no way around it, motherfucks. They were going to win the tag titles because they're the Hardy Boys. Now, do you think, if let's say in, 5 years, right? In 5 years, Dean Ambrose comes back to WWE. Do you think he would get the same kind of reaction as Jeff Hardy would? Absolutely not. Even if Roman Reigns leaves for 5 years and comes back, he's not getting a Jeff Hardy reaction. So why the hell is it that people like Jeff Hardy have to go and job to Jinder Mahal, who I like? I would have no problem with Jeff Hardy jobbing to Jinder Mahal. No problem at all. My issue is that this is happening on WWE main event. Now, I suspect that part of this is the consequence of COVID, because if it weren't for COVID, Jeff Hardy would be put in front of a full live audience because he is over and people do like him. But it is very odd to your boy, motherfucks. It is very, very odd to your boy that basically what's happening, motherfucks, is that people are not pushing the right people. Jeff Hardy was 39 when he came back. I don't know why he wasn't pushed into the main event. where it would be so easy to explain, like, yo, this is Jeff Hardy. Remember him? He's a main eventer, okay? Same way they did it to AJ Styles. For some reason, WWE kept focusing on people like Rollins and Roman Reigns. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't, but I feel in my heart that the argument as to why they were focusing on Rollins is primarily a result of the fact that Rollins is young, or was young, because now he's also 35 or so, right? Again, he's not old, but it matters how you book someone in those first 10 years that you have them, right? If you have them very, very early, you can use them for those 8 to 10 years to establish them as dominant forces. So when they're in their mid-30s, which apparently is the prime for a wrestler, 35, where you have the experience and the skill set and the size and the relative youth, when they're in this situation, they can then kick ass, right? That's kind of how it works, motherfucks. That's kind of how it works. But when you don't use them correctly and you don't build that mystique, or when they don't get over like they're supposed to, then you're fucked. Then you're left with Rollins and Roman Reigns. Rollins and Roman Reigns are not bad, right? Roman Reigns is great. It's just that he's not as great as he should be by now. He's not a legend as he should be. A lot of people are like, oh, he's 35. He's got way, so many years ahead of him. He doesn't have to be a legend yet. That's true. He doesn't have to be a legend yet. But a lot of people, when they were 35, were already legendary status. For example, motherfucks, The Undertaker, playa. The Undertaker. The Undertaker is 56 years old. Just turned 56 a couple of months ago, motherfucks. 56. That means he was 35 when he developed and started the American Badass gimmick. At that point, Undertaker was being presented as the guy who had a decade of destruction. So for 10 years, this motherfucker has been beating the shit out of people. And now he's just getting started once again. If Undertaker retired 5 years after American Badass, Undertaker would go down as the GOAT, or as one of the GOATs. Already. He does not need to continue doing what he's doing, or to have matches with AJ Styles and Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt to establish himself as being legit. You see what I'm saying? None of that stuff is necessary for Undertaker. He was already a champion. Triple H in the year 2000 was 31, motherfucks. He's 51 today. He was 31. You understand me? 31 when he was, in my opinion, at the height of his career. You can make the argument that the height of the career went on all the way to Evolution when he was in his mid-30s, and then DX for a little bit and still his mid-30s. Eventually, though, he entered legend territory. You could argue that he entered legend territory when Evolution started, because he had these incredible years, and perhaps more importantly than all that, motherfucks, perhaps more importantly than all those years, Triple H, during that time, established himself as a solid main eventer, as an unshakable main eventer. And eventually, he started Evolution, which was all about the fact that he is by far the best wrestler in the world right now. That was the entire premise of Evolution. So there you go, motherfucks. At 31, and certainly at 35, look at Triple H. Look at what Triple H was. Multiple-time champion, super main eventer, extremely over, arguably legend status in Evolution. Then, look at Undertaker. Same shit. Extremely over, almost legend status, Evolution. Let's not even talk about Stone Cold and The Rock, who retired in their 30s. Who retired and didn't give a fuck anymore, just left, and are considered arguably the two best wrestlers of all time. You see what I'm saying, motherfuckers? When did Stone Cold is 56? When did he retire? He retired in 2003. 17 years ago, motherfuckers. He was 39. And that was after he had the whole I'm the sheriff gimmick and all that other shit. You know what I'm saying? His real last feud was with Triple H, if you really think about it, right? He had that feud, and then he had the invasion angle, and then the feud with The Rock. That's it. That is the end of his career. 18 years ago, almost 20 years ago, motherfucks. Almost 20 years ago. In his mid-30s, he retired. You see what I'm saying? In his mid-30s, this motherfucker retired. Mid to late 30s, let's be honest. Mid to late 30s, he retired, and he's considered the best wrestler of all time. The Rock, same thing, motherfucks, even earlier. Even earlier, all right? Even earlier, The Rock, up in this motherfucker, retires. Straight up, just retires. The Rock is 49 today. 49 today, motherfucks. When did he actually retire? Like his first one. Not that he came back to wrestle Cena 10 years ago. Who gives a fuck about that? But his retirement in 2004, 16 years ago, he was, motherfucks, 33. And he's considered the best ever. If Roman Reigns, God forbid, dies tomorrow or retires tomorrow, in 3 years he will be replaced by someone else and people won't even remember him. He's closer to Sheamus than he is to John Cena, despite the fact that he has gotten a John Cena push. How can we reconcile this with people like Jeff Hardy being left out of the conversation entirely? I believe, honestly, if Roman Reigns and Jeff Hardy leave for 5 years, if they both retire for 5 years, and they come back 5 years later, Jeff Hardy will get the biggest pop, and he will have the better spot on the card, all other things being equal. So why is Jeff Hardy on main event? A lot of people have been talking about this. A lot of people have been talking about how WWE is, fucking with Jeff Hardy and things like that. And I don't really particularly care about Jeff Hardy so much as I do about the fact that there's no consistency in WWE's main event scene. Where Jeff Hardy is a main event jobber, but Cesaro, who's been a main event jobber this whole time, is now in the main event? Explain this to me, motherfucks. Explain this to me. Now, I know everybody likes Cesaro, and I'm not upset that Cesaro is getting a push, There's no hate for my part towards Cesaro. Cesaro is 40 years old. He's 40 years old, motherfucks. Jeff Hardy is how old? Jeff Hardy is, let's look that motherfucker up. 43, I bet? 44, maybe? 43. He's almost 44. But he's 43 years old right now, right? He's 3 years older than Cesaro. Now look at the careers of Jeff Hardy and Cesaro. Who has done more? Jeff Hardy has done more in the last 10 years of his career than Cesaro will ever do in his life in terms of wrestling. Jeff Hardy has no reason. He's only 3 years older, so it's not like he's this decrepit old man. Jeff Hardy, there's no reason why it can't be Jeff Hardy versus versus Seth Rollins, and then versus Roman Reigns, and then Cesaro versus Jinder Mahal and Nakamura. Jeff Hardy is a fucking legend, motherfucks. So I don't know why WWE is so keen on taking someone like Jeff Hardy and burying him while pushing Cesaro, which we all know is not going to happen. Cesaro is just not going to happen. The maximum, the ceiling of Cesaro is Mark Henry. Cesaro might one day become Mark Henry. He might be a guy, like a Hall of Famer, straight up, I'm not even joking. If he stays for another 10 years, he might be a guy that's going to consistently be teamed with people like R-Truth, MVP, Evan Bourne, like that level of wrestler. And then, eventually, he wins the big one once, has a push. This might be that push for Cesaro. Has that push, right? Wins a few big ones, and then eventually goes back to obscurity. That's the best that can happen to Cesaro. The best that can happen to Jeff Hardy is one of the GOATs. Jeff Hardy still has the potential to go down as one of the best. Jeff Hardy is one gimmick change away from becoming the next Undertaker, motherfucks. He's right there. Jeff Hardy is one of the people that should be treated the best in this company. If you look at a wrestling event from 1999, you might see Jeff Hardy. And you might see him today again. So why the fuck are people like Sheamus, who are the same age as Jeff Hardy, treated better? Why? They've dropped the ball. Seth Rollins has dropped the ball. Roman Reigns has dropped the ball. Jeff Hardy was never given the ball, and he has still picked up the ball. So I believe, personally, motherfucks, that Jeff Hardy not only deserves better, but that all of these recent WWE signings, especially the ones from the indies, are complete ball droppers. You look at Kevin Owens' career, and you compare him to Jeff Hardy. How old is Kevin Owens? In his mid-30s, probably? 37. He's not even in his mid-30s. He's in his mid to late 30s. 37. Jeff Hardy is only 5 years or 6 years older than Kevin Owens. He's only 5 years older than Kevin Owens, motherfucks. Kevin Owens is 2 years younger than Jeff Hardy was when he returned. And think about what Jeff Hardy had accomplished by that point. Kevin Owens will never accomplish those things. But for some reason, Jeff Hardy has to be on like the pre-show, and Kevin Owens has to be at WrestleMania. And with that, motherfuckers, I bid you adieu.